Last week, we started this conversation by shifting the way we look at clutter and not as something to fix, right? But as something to start paying attention to. And if you sat with that at all, even just noticed a few things in your home or what's going on inside your mind, you might have already started to feel a little bit of a shift. That sense of, there's more to this than I thought, or maybe I've never heard it talked about in this way. So today I want to go just a little bit deeper into that because now that you're starting to pay attention to your clutter or your stuff, the things that are surrounding you day to day, you'll start to notice that it starts talking back to you. Okay. Obviously, not in this loud way, but in subtle whispers or just your own patterns. It shows up in your resistance. It shows up in the things that you tend to avoid, and it shows up in the things that you keep circling back to. Now, one of the biggest shifts I want to offer you is that your clutter is often connected to something on an emotional layer. And again, this isn't about overanalyzing everything in your home. Okay. We're still just noticing at this point. But what I want to add on to is that there's usually a reason why something is hard to let go of or why our clutter keeps coming back. For example, you might have something in your home that you don't even like, right? But you keep it. Maybe it was a gift or it was something that was passed down to you. And when you really sit with it, it's not about the item at all. Because remember, stuff is neutral. I talked about this in part 1. And if you missed that, make sure you go back and listen to that episode. It's more about who gave it to you, what it represents, and how you would feel if you let it go. Most of the time, something like this is attached to a feeling of guilt. Or maybe you're holding on to things just in case. And on the surface, that seems really practical, right? But underneath that, there might be this fear of not having enough, this fear of needing something and not being prepared, or maybe even some past experience that has sort of shaped that belief. Or this one comes up a lot, holding on to things because they represented a version of you. It could be a past identity. It could be a chapter that you're not fully ready to close on. And so letting go of this item feels like letting go of a literal part of yourself. So these examples demonstrate why clutter can feel so overwhelming, right? Because it's not just about deciding what stays and what goes. It's actually about processing emotions, making a decision, and sometimes facing things that you have been avoiding. And this doesn't just live in your home, right? Last episode, I shared how it also lives in our minds. It shows up in the body. In the body, it shows up as tension and fatigue, that feeling of constantly being on or overwhelmed by our things, our schedules, and our emotions. Because when we don't give ourselves the space to process, we carry it all mentally, emotionally, physically. Something I have seen over and over again is that we are so used to staying busy that we don't give ourselves any sort of time to feel anything fully. We are moving from one thing to the next. We have to keep the household running. We have to keep the schedule on time. And in doing that, we also keep everything stored. So clutter becomes this kind of holding pattern. It's a way of keeping things exactly where they are, even if they're not really serving us anymore. And here's something that might surprise you. Even those who seem extremely organized on the outside are also struggling with clutter on the inside. It shows up on that end of the clutter spectrum in the form of control, Organizing is a way of keeping control of our environment. But sometimes those who are most organized, or at least appear to be, they maintain that because they actually feel out of control. And so keeping an overly organized space, it sort of acts like this cover up or this mask so that others don't notice. And so I want to be really clear here. There's nothing wrong with you if this is resonating. All of this is incredibly common. In the last episode, I talked about minimizing the shame around this topic, especially for women, because we are managing households. We are in the workforce full time. Some of us, a lot of us are starting to run businesses. We are raising families. We're just holding a ton of responsibility from day to day, and there's a lot there to be carried. So, of course, the overwhelm and the clutter is going to show up somewhere and in some way. But what starts to change things? It is not forcing yourself to get rid of everything or spending hundreds of dollars at the container store, right? Again, there's a time and a place and energy for that. But the first step is the most critical step, and that is becoming more honest about why it's happening to begin with. So, if you did the awareness practice that I shared in the last episode, maybe you came across some items in your home that caught your attention. So the next step is to start asking questions. Why is this so hard to let go? What does this object or item, what does it represent to me? What meaning does it hold? How would I feel if it were gone? Those are the questions that will start to shift things because they move you out of this autopilot thinking of, should I keep it? Should I donate it? Should it go to trash? Those questions lead you into awareness instead. And like I said in the last episode, awareness is the first step. Once you have awareness, now you have a choice on what to do with the item. We often skip the first step, and that's becoming aware. We just do. We act. We move it. We organize it. We clean it. We have to have awareness on why it's there or it comes back. And so you'll start seeing these same patterns a little more clearly with other items in your home once you take this first step. Now, this is exactly what I walk you through inside the Connect with Your Clutter masterclass, which is now live, because having these realizations is one thing, but actually being able to sit with them and process them and understand what to do, that's a whole different experience. Inside the masterclass, I guide you through this in a really simple way. It's not overwhelming. There's not a ton of content. It's just designed to help you connect the dots between you and the things you keep. Start seeing your own patterns through a different lens and start creating space at home in a way that actually feels doable and intentional and with a lot of self-compassion. There's also a companion guide that goes with the mini course. There's just 2 20-minute modules. I'm talking to the point, to the root, easy, manageable masterclass. You can take what's coming up for you and actually process it. Get it on paper, out of your mind, process the information. Sometimes we don't need more information. That's why I kept this course very short. We just need a place to process what we're noticing. So if this is resonating and you want access to the masterclass and the companion guide, you can request access through the link in the show notes, and I will send it directly to you. In the next episode, which is part 3 and the last of this series, we're going to bring this into something a little more tangible. I'm going to offer you a few grounded ways to start without overwhelming yourself. But for now, just stay with the awareness practice. And if you're ready to start uncovering your connection to clutter, you can access the masterclass by heading to the link in today's show notes. That is it for today. I will be connecting with you in part 3 soon. Until then, my friends, so much love and gratitude.